All right, well, good afternoon, everyone. I'm going to get started because I know it's getting darker earlier and earlier, so I don't want to keep you guys here. My name is Languit. I'm the commander for the Southeast Area Command. The former commander, Johnny Yada, today is his last day. So these last couple weeks he's been out processing. I was fortunate enough to be able to come over here about a month ago just to kind of learn about the processes and operations that Commander Yada have been doing with the officers over here. Just a quick introduction about myself. I've lived in Albuquerque for almost 27 years, I want to say. In fact, at one point I lived at Utah in Trumbull, so I'm very familiar with this area. I went to school at Highland, and I ended up going to the University of New Mexico as well. As an officer, as a patrol officer, I actually worked this area as well. I worked graveyard here in the southeast. From there, I did general investigations, I did undercover narcotics, and I did tactical. I did SWAT and K9 and bombs. My last assignment as a commander, I was in the Special Investigations Division. So all of the undercovers and apprehension teams, that's who I supervised. Now, when the opportunity came up to take over for Commander Yada, I was very, very happy that Chief gave me the chance. So here I am. Thank you.
Welcome aboard.
So, and I think, and I don't want to blend my two missions, but one of the things that I really wanted to do is I wanted to reach out and start meeting with all of the neighborhood associations and the business coalitions in the Southeast Area Command just to find out what really is going on, like what's the pulse, what issues are you seeing, and any information that you can provide to me, so we can help, make sure that we're allocating the right amount of resources and taking care of that. So I've actually started that, but then also what we've talked about, because again in my former life I was actually involved with the Violence Intervention Program. I'm not sure if a lot of you are familiar with that. In fact, I know we have some literature reference the VIP program. The VIP manager, Jerry Bachicha, not to put her on the spot, she's actually here today with us. So with what else I wanted to do, and I think our overall goal is to stop the shootings in Albuquerque. So hopefully we don't have to do these shooting reviews. But I think what's real important is anytime a community experiences a shooting, especially a shooting with injury or a homicide, it's important for us, the police department, to communicate, what happened and what's going on and what you guys need to be aware of what happened in that incident. But then also give you the opportunity to talk about what you guys are seeing being residents of that particular area. Now, I will be the first to tell you that the police department may not be the right resource to fix that problem, right? But we have enough relationships and partnerships with other city departments and other external stakeholders in this community to where, even though it's not a police problem, we can bring the right people to the table. So if an issue is identified, and I'll give you an example. If there's a neighborhood that may have that abandoned house that went into foreclosure, is abandoned, and now it's a cause for drug trafficking or transients to overrun it. Maybe the police, we may not be the main resource to take care of that, but then again, we can get involved with our code enforcement, with our planning department, solid waste, get the area cleaned up, work with the owner to get that property taken care of. At the end of the day, removing that, problem from your neighborhoods. So that being said, I'd like to start off with providing you an update with what happened at 609 Grove the other day. Give you an update, and again, it's still in the investigation phases. Our homicide detectives are doing their thing, so I know that the actual results of who's getting prosecuted, who's not, they're not ready. So when we do have that information, not just in the spirit of transparency, but again, this is your neighborhood. I feel that you have a right to know what's going on. I'd like to share that information with you. And then after I give you the update, just again, really open it up to you, the residents who live over here, whether if it's Alcazar, Chama, Mesilla, Espanola, San Pablo, Grove, this area, let me know And it doesn't have to be here now if you don't feel like comfortable voicing it, but I'm going to ensure that you all have my contact information at the end of this. Let me know what you're seeing out there and what the issues of concern are. And we as a police department, whatever enforcement that we need to take as police officers, we will. And if it's not a police problem, like I said, I can definitely work to get the right people at the table to help resolve those issues. The one disclaimer that I do want to put out there is this incident involves people, right? There's always two sides to an altercation. And I would just ask that you just keep that in mind, to where, you know, loss of life or violent crime, of course, it's frustrating, it's scary, there's high emotions, but again, please be respectful that the purpose of this is to provide that update and to find out what those underlying root causes of what could have caused this, and let's address those so it doesn't happen in the future. It's not to point fingers at this particular family. That's not the purpose of tonight, if that makes sense to everyone. So please just remember, on both sides, on the victim side or the suspect side, they have families, and some of those families may be present tonight. So please, let's not point fingers, and let's look at identifying root causes and recognizing what those are, so we can take steps to prevent that from happening again in the future. Okay, so with that being said, again, I don't want to keep you here before it gets dark. This incident happened on November 2nd, okay? It did end up at 609 Grove Street Southeast. There was an altercation though. The altercation that led up to this happened at the park, at Phil Chacon Park. Okay, and what the preliminary information that we got is that a male and female individual were arguing or may have been involved in what could have been considered a domestic dispute at the park. Another male individual intervened, broke it up, wanting to stop that domestic violence from occurring. The individual that shot the victim followed them back to 609 Grove Street Southeast, and it's important to note that I think that they lived near each other, so both of these males lived in close proximity to each other. When the male that broke up the altercation gets back to his apartment, he goes inside, his family is inside. And the male that was involved in the domestic violence follows him to his apartment, starts banging on the door. I don't know what's said, our detectives are still figuring that out, but there's another altercation. I believe our initial thoughts, and again, the detectives are still getting statements and working with our prosecutors to figure out the levels of probable cause. Based on the altercation that was happening, that male individual felt that he and his family were in fear for their safety. He did have a firearm, so he fired his firearm. So in this particular situation, there is no one outstanding. Okay, everyone that was involved has been identified and were detained, and our investigators were able to talk to them. So there is no active threat. This isn't like a robbery, homicide, or anything along those lines. There is no one outstanding. Now we're at the point where we need to figure out if this was a self-defense situation, if there's more to that. I will tell you, the individual that did fire his firearm does not have any type of criminal history, so that also needs to be taken into consideration. But to me, it looks like the motivation for this, yes, we have a situation of domestic violence that's related, but it's an argument, it's an altercation between two people. The motivation wasn't a robbery, it wasn't a drug rip, which we do see. It wasn't anything like that. So that being said, what I really want to focus on, especially for this area command, is anytime that we have a shooting with injury or a homicide, I really want to focus on what these motivations are, because for me that helps identify trends. If we have a significant increase in overdoses, that helps me figure out which resources our narcotics unit, our partners at the DEA, to where I need to focus my attention on narcotics enforcement, because our overdoses are going up. The same can be said if it's robbery crews, where we need to focus our proactive officers on identifying and working these crews that are breaking into buildings or that they're robbing stores and they're firing shots when they're leaving. You know, that's a different set of resources and a different strategy that we're going to use. For this particular one, when it comes to, you know, person-on-person disputes and altercation, disrespect, that's something to where I really think that we have to have a discussion as a community. And of course, part of this reason for this meeting is to actually get your guys' feedback too. But there are resources within this community that can help with that. If the neighborhood is to tell me like, hey, we do and we have had a history of neighbors constantly fighting with other neighbors. You know, what do we need to do? Who do we need to reach out to? Is that necessarily a police department response? Are we experts in conflict mediation? At that particular level, we may need to involve people like Tanya Covington, you know, that specializes in restorative justice and conflict mediation without involving the police. So a lot of the ways that we allocate our resources and figure out which crime trends that we have to focus on, to me it's a bit reactive. We go off of police reports, and that's why it's so important that you do call and you do make a report, because then I can see all along Gibson, all along Central, all along Lomas, I have an increase in commercial burglaries. I have an increase in residential burglaries. What tells me that is the reports, so I know how many and about what day of the week and what times. That helps me figure out when I need to have my officers, like Sergeant Jones over here, have his teams in place patrolling those areas in the event of with the goal of catching something in progress and reducing these crime categories. Now, I look at it as with motivations to an incident that happened here. If you're able to communicate with us, with me, what's happening in your neighborhood, and I can determine, you know what, we could benefit from, like I gave the example with the boarded up house. I can get planning and code enforcement. I can get these resources out there before it turns into and ends in a violent crime. I can call Tanya Covington and I can say, hey, it's been brought to my attention that we do have, you know, 4 different apartment complexes where all the neighbors argue with each other, and it's only a matter of time before an altercation involving a firearm happens. Can we come up with a plan? Can we involve conflict mediators? And can we help and squash that before it turns into a violent crime? So that's kind of the plan that I have going forward. That's not going to happen overnight, but what it comes down to, it comes down to a good collaboration with you guys. That's what I'm asking for. And this is what I want to do with all the neighborhood association meetings that are coming up. I want to go and I want to give this pitch, and I want to give out my contact information so I can start getting this information. But like I said in the beginning, also after all of these shooting with injury homicides, I'd like to do these shooting reviews just to provide that information, answer any questions, and give you the opportunity to let me know, well, this shooting could have happened because of this. You know, this is what we had observed leading up to the day of the incident. So with that, again, I want to be respectful of time. I don't want to keep you here late. But for those residents that do live in this community over here, please, I mean, if there's anything, now's your time. If there's questions, concerns. Yes, sir.
I have a question. At one time, they had police officers patrolling the neighborhood on bicycles. Is that possible that could happen again?
Yes, it's very possible. Right now, the bike officers, and let me back up. So when I came on the department, we had a very robust bike program. There was a period of years between 2010 and now to where the bike officers, it was suspended. I don't remember the exact amount of years, but it's back. And so this area command, we are fortunate to have bike officers. Right now they're assigned to Nob Hill. Okay? Now, that doesn't mean that they're going to be assigned there forever. If that's who we need to bring over here, if it'll help, then that's an operational plan that I can make happen. Yes, ma'am.
The officers on foot.
Yes.
Makes a big difference.
Yes.
Anyway, that makes a big difference. I live on the road. The officers go through, it's like, everything's expensive. It just doesn't happen. So that's something to look at too, is men on foot.
Something that we do, and I don't know if you're familiar with it, we call them field briefings, but before the start of every shift, our officers and our teams, they brief because they put out the information from the previous shift, any hazards, any current crime trends. They meet, the sergeants meet with their officers and they conduct this briefing. We don't like to do that just here. We like to get out there in the community and do that. So definitely, and thank you for that. And I would just add, I doubt that there would be a neighborhood that says this, but again, this is why I think this is so important to have this communication. There may be a neighborhood that says, like, we don't need you guys out here, we're fine, but what we do need is we need A, B, and C. So then it's like, okay, now I know what the issues are. Sounds like on Grove, we need more officers. Having that presence on foot. Okay, all right.
So they can visually, I mean, this is just me, you visually see that, it's like you can stand on Grove and look down at the park.
Right.
You can see all the cops there.
Right.
Just from Grove to the end of Vale down there, just seeing the cop, that doesn't have to just shake it, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
And that's just being observant because I work out there with these people and I try to make sure that the women are safe.
That makes perfect sense, and I will now fold into why I have a lot more educated people than me. That's why I have them here. What I've noticed is when we have officers on foot, you're right, it causes what I call disruption. You know, if there is a criminal element, and I don't want to label anyone, but if there is a criminal element, and they recognize, oh wow, there's police officers, I'm going to stop what I'm doing. Unfortunately, we can't be out there 24/7, right? So when we break down, we go, are they going to go back to resuming the activity that they're doing? And they may do that. But the reason why I have these folks out there is, again, I like to look at what the underlying root causes are. So if in this particular neighborhood, it's a drug problem, it's a substance abuse problem, I still want to have officers do our field briefings and be out there on foot, but can we also bring in resources to attack what that underlying root cause is? Can we get our substance abuse providers, get that information to them and get, because there's so many great people and organizations in the community of Albuquerque that want to help. But at the same time, it's like, we kind of need to tell them when and where and who. And if we can provide that with them, I'm thinking between the proactive operations by police, but then also setting aside some resources to address what the underlying root cause is, our chances for success, and success in the sense of we're not going to have any shootings, that'll go down.
I know last summer, I think it was last summer when they had officers on foot. A lot. Like 3 times a day.
Makes a difference. Makes a difference. Okay. Noted. Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
Like, kind of repeat what they're saying because folks here can't hear.
Okay, she was talking about, for her particular work that she does on Grove Street, she was asking about maybe if we could increase the foot patrol by police officers, which I think is a fantastic idea. But I was all, can you hear what I was saying about also looking at the underlying root causes? So I think with both, we increase our chances of really reducing the violent crime incidents. But great, thank you so much for that. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, I'm Joanne Landry. I'm in the Trumbull neighborhood. I've been for 17 years the president, so I've been very involved with a lot of our issues here. And one of our biggest one now is with our homeless neighbors. And they live here. They're our neighbors. So,
yes.
Within that group, we've been able to identify domestic violence issues. The blues are just crazy right now. The fentanyl blues.
Yes.
The mental illness is so crazy. I mean, I hate to say it, but no. There's so much mental illness in our community. Heroin, of course, but yeah, just trying to get these folks into a safe place where they can feel like they're human beings again. I know we have a lot of issues with the police coming in, invading the parks, taking all the tents,
right,
all of their things. So we've been working with the city right now, and the Compassion Service Center, I don't know if anybody knows about that, but it's right there on Trumbull and Mesilla. It's an outreach of the church that I'm a pastor of for the last 26 years. And we're going to be opening an emergency shelter. And we've gotten the go from the city, and then we're trying to change the code so we can put up a lot of what's called warming stations organizations, SOS, Save Outdoor Structures, where we can get these folks off the sidewalks, the streets, the parks, and save their lives. We have a lot of them last year that had frostbite. We have a gentleman that lost all his fingers. I mean, so, you know.
Well, thank you.
It's huge right now.
Thank you for the work that you do. And if I understand you correctly, maybe even right now we can prepare for that, because now you're going to be providing a service for a population, but you've already identified that there could be possible domestic violence.
Yes.
So
a lot of different, we can do a lot of wraparound there.
Okay.
Because I've already built a relationship with so many of them, and it'll be a 24-hour. So we'll be open 24 hours.
Are you good if I follow up with you? And now I'm glad I can put a face, face to when we talk.
Yeah, please do.
I'll follow up with you with some domestic violence resources.
Right. Yeah, we'd like to know some of the work you're doing and some more of the maybe substance abuse. I mean, getting these folks into substance abuse counseling is just very it's not very hard, but I think we need to think outside the box and try to come to them and maybe do some work with them. So if you can do anything, thank you.
Right, thank you for that. Thank you. Thank you so much. Yes, sir.
I just want to welcome you again, Commander Archie from Southeast, and thank you for having this. This is the first time this has happened. I hear you brought it over from the other command, so I appreciate the proactive and taking right off the bat the problems over to you.
And like I said, with the overall goal of not having any shootings, this is a shooting review, but again, I want to be, I know that there's other venues or places where I'll be able to have this communication, whether if it's a neighborhood association meeting or if it's a CPC. But again, I think it's important that we discuss when we have violent incidents, because you know what? We're a community and I can't think of everything. You know what's happening, you know, and I need to get that information and feedback from you guys. So thank you for the welcome. I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Well, hey, I want to thank you for taking the time to meet with us. At least some of us got an idea of what's going on. I've lived in this neighborhood 14 years.
Right.
I'm from the Northwest. And the difference 14 years ago and now is very different, but the count of the homeless is about 4 times higher, so, you know, it's just an abundance of collection of everything.
Right, right.
But you guys are short manpower already, I know. So any help you can do, everybody appreciates it.
Well, thank you, and it's a two-way street. Thank you for coming here tonight. So,
One more thing to say, I think a lot of it right now has to do with the power of the blues overtaking the heroin. You know what I'm saying? It's interrupting the heroin money and the blue, and it's interrupting, it's causing conflict amongst when they think of big people. And I think that's where a lot of that's coming from. Because every time, just about 3 times this last month I walked, she saw all the people dead right there. Come on, man, you know?
It's heartbreaking.
Fentanyl. Women getting killed over fentanyl. You know, it just, I have a problem with the women getting killed because I want to know why. Why so many women? I mean, they might, we put people put themselves in dangerous situations, but still. You know, there's somebody that's going to do it to you, and 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 they're going to keep doing it until something's done about it.
Right.
But then there's always going to probably be another. You know what I'm saying? That's my concern with so many women. I don't understand it because we're the weaker sex or what? You know? They just, I guess they come up against the right ones yet. I don't know, but I don't understand that. I have to be the voice. I want to know why. So many women are getting killed and nothing's being done, really.
Besides knowing why, do you have any ideas?
A lot.
I'll give you my contact information.
A lot, because
I'd love to hear it.
I'm out there with them. I feed them. I make sure they have clothes. I make sure they're warm. I make sure nobody's bothering them. I go out there in the middle of the night. Get out of here. You're not supposed to be here. You're going to get in trouble. I know what they tell me. I know what's going on.
Right.
You know, and it bothers me. It bothers my spirit when one of my people end up dead. You know, that's the problem with me.
And I would like to, and I don't mean to put you on the spot. Angel, can I put you on the spot? I know you had talked at our echo, but Angel Garcia, he's the social service coordinator for the VIP program. And on this table, when we conclude, please feel free to look at the literature that we have up here. It's resources about what's out there that can help, crime prevention resources. But Angel, I'd like to put him on the spot because, again, this stemming from a shooting homicide. The Violence Intervention Program works with so many different stakeholders and nonprofits and departments that want to help people. So can I?
Yeah. So, as you said, the violence intervention, and I'll put my business cards up here if anybody wants them. We work with victims of gun violence, and we have a hospital-based violence intervention program where everybody that I've gone to see in there has been addicted to fentanyl, and it's pretty much the surrounding factor of why they got shot. And again, it's getting out of hand, and it's powerful. I had to Narcan somebody 4 times in order for them to snap out of it. You know, usually when it's just once, you know, that's how powerful that drug is. But as Commander Languit said, so we deal with strictly gun violence, but still, when somebody calls me, I don't say no. And if I could direct you or point you in the right direction, I'll do that. If I could connect you, I'll do that. So feel free to reach out anytime. My business cards are here.
Thank you. And I apologize, this might sound bad, but I find myself in so many meetings where we just talk about like the next meeting. I'm just the time, maybe it's my ADD, but I like to have action items. If there's an issue, you know, let's fix it. Let's work towards fixing it. And I get that it's not going to happen overnight. So the action items that I'm going to take away from tonight, and please anyone else chime in, is obviously increasing our presence and growth, foot patrol, re-look at deploying our bike officers, and I'd like to get with you about domestic violence resources, especially now that it's getting colder, with the influx of people that you're going to be having, maybe having those resources readily available to kind of reduce, you know, the domestic violence incidents. So those are the action items that I'm going to be taking back. Again, it's a two-way street. Thank you so much for your time. I don't have all the answers. I need to communicate. I need to collaborate with you guys. Yes, they call it. Some may call it community policing. I think that's what this is. But to me, it's community policing is underneath community engagement, because we may not always be the right answer. But again, like I said, there's so many different other city departments and stakeholders that if there's an issue, even if it's not a police issue, together as a community, we can figure out how to solve that issue. And that's what I want to provide for you here as your area commander. Okay? So thank you so much. We appreciate the time this week.
So I'm also on the Southeast CPC, and I would like to give a shout out, I guess, to the ECHO program. They expanded from downtown to Nob Hill, and I talked to Maria a couple weeks ago, and she says they have a plan in draft on what it would take to expand the ECHO to other parts of the city. And the proactive, constructive, compassionate collaboration among all city resources, APD, community organizations and so forth. That's the model for what you were talking about. I just I think that it is something that we have not really tapped into. Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
Is anyone not familiar with what ECHO is? Everyone knows what ECHO is? So, and I was right there with you a few weeks ago. The way it was explained to me is ECHO started in the medical field, where a doctor, a specialty doctor, realized, you know, I just don't have enough hours in the day to take care of all these patients. Let me teach other doctors about this particular procedure, this particular issue. Let me educate. It was that public health approach. And so they found that model was very, very successful. It really helped. So it's like, hey, yeah, it started off in the medical field, but if we could take that public health approach and apply it to different areas, it's been successful. So even in public safety, it's been very successful too, to where, in my experience, it seems like, I don't want to say a tabletop, but you look at issues that involve the police department, Albuquerque Fire, that involves business communities, and you discuss it. You discuss an issue. You discuss how you best respond to this. You know, what's your role in this versus what your role in it. So I've attended, I want to say, 3 of our Southeast Nob Hill Echoes. They're great. And the first question I had to Maria is, how come we don't have one up here on the international issue? You know, why there's other neighborhoods that could highly benefit, and it's in the works. It's not going to happen overnight, but it's definitely been talked about, and that's what we're hoping to expand to. So. Okay, well, thank you, everyone. Please, feel free before you leave. If you know anyone that has a firearm, and you think they could benefit from some firearm blocks, they're up there for the taking, and we also have some good literature on crime prevention.
Hello everyone. I'm the crime prevention specialist. Joanne knows me pretty good for the Southeast Area Command. And what I do is I help with crime prevention. And what I can do for you is, for example, if you have a residential burglary of some type, I could go and I could recommend crime prevention tips for your home or business or anything like that. Or and also for neighborhood watch. If anybody is interested in getting a neighborhood watch set up, I can help you with that as well. Okay, and another thing that I do is I help, and myself, code enforcement, and a couple officers go on Fridays to go to different camps where we help out. We do resources. We go check abandoned homes, and we make sure they're clear and they're not being started on fire or multiple things like that. And I could help out with that. So if you have some kind of nuisance where you know that they keep breaking into a house or something like that, I can help with that as well. Or if you are aware of a home that you think there may be drug dealing coming in and out, but you don't know for sure, you could email me as well. And what I could do is I forward it to the narcotics team, to the supervisor, and then they'll get a detective to check it out. Okay, so I do that a lot. So if you want to reach out to me, I'm going to leave my cards here. And anybody that wants to reach out to me, or if you have a question about something, I can find out for you as well. Mike.
I would just give a recommendation to look into the Albuquerque Police mobile app. One of the biggest complaints I hear about is I called the dispatcher, I was on hold for 20 minutes, and then I got disconnected. I tell you what, I use that app for shootings, for gunshots, for accidents and so forth, for homeless people down and out, and for suspected drug trafficking, and I get responses typically about 7 minutes. And I have a record of it on my cell phone. So I highly recommend it, and that's one way that you can get the information to the commander so he can figure out what's going on, and also if we need more resources in terms of shifting the police presence here to the southeast, because there's more going on here than, say, foothills.
I have a good message in this month's newsletter about how we're expanding our reporting services to decrease those hold times. It's going to be in our newsletter. If anyone does not get our Area Command newsletter, please get a hold of Jose. Give them your email address. And even if you're not an email person, I'll personally print out a copy and bring it to you. It's full of really good information that you can really benefit from. There is going to be a piece on our reporting. So please give him your email address if you want to get it.
So leave this tablet here. Do you want to put your email?
For our newsletter.
If you want to put your email on here, I'll send it to you, okay? And I also put it on Nextdoor. I don't know if you're all familiar with that, but whenever it's ready, I post it on Nextdoor, okay? So I'll put my tablet here and I'll leave my cards here if you want to reach out to me, even if you have a question about something, because Mike reaches out to me, right? So if you have an issue of some kind, because sometimes you don't know, it's a police question. I'm a retired APD officer myself of 30 years, and now I do crime prevention. So, but if you have a question, I can help you out, okay? Because right now it's very difficult to get a hold of an officer because we're short-handed and it's just difficult. So I can help you out if you need it, okay?
You guys still doing diffusing
Well, that's different kind of training. That's like CIT type training. That would go to the CIT department. Like for myself, what I do is mainly towards crime prevention, like personal safety, like travel and holiday safety, anything to do with your home and yourself, or like workplace safety. We could do like any kind of presentation like that.
Maybe if we were to want that type of training again, I know we went through an
Contact
officer.
VIP.
We went through an officer
Yeah.
about a couple of years ago. But I think since we have the emergency shelter going to start up, I think it'd be great.
Yeah, we have a retired captain that does a lot of that, like active shooter and stuff like that. And if you want something like that, I can refer you to them.
Okay.
Yeah, for sure I can do that. Yeah. So I'll leave my cards here, and feel free to take whatever you want. And it's a lot of good information. Okay.
That's it, Mason.
Thank you.